Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm watching The Sandman, Season 1, Episode 3.
Dream a little dream of me.
This is a summer for that song.
Yeah.
It's factored into several things. Okay, I'm going to start just in general. This is a spoiler show. From here on out, you've been warned. I'm going to start broad, and then we can go story. I think Jenna was fine.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
It's no Matt Ryan.
But now we've said it.
I love it. I love Jenna Coleman. She's not my favorite companion from Doctor Who either, but I think she's great. And I thought she was good in this.
She pulled it off. There's something about this type of character that I think is particularly hard to pull off.
Yeah.
In general, but also some reason, maybe it's because of the type of women that go into acting. Like it's a certain ingenue type that typically is an actress. I think sometimes, not to be weirdly sexist right out of the gate, but I think women have a harder time.
I was going to be weirdly sexist in a different way.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it, and I liked it, but I don't necessarily think this was the character to gender flip.
Because
John
I felt very robbed of homoeroticism, male homoeroticism.
That. But also, John Constantine is such a character with so much religious,
from what we know about him,
so much religious baggage and such a chip on his shoulder. And in general, that's not something that I like as much in my female character. I don't like it in my male characters either.
No, but it's what we refer to as the cop with the French braid.
A little.
We get into that territory. I think Jenna managed to.
Oh yeah.
To skirt the line. Like
she skipped like a stone over the water.
Kind of. Yeah. Keanu Reeves is his own thing.
Yeah,
he is Enigma wrapped in a mystery.
It's not really,
that was a fluke. And then Matt Ryan leaned more into the scamp quality, which I think is just better. It's just easier.
I think it's also a little, in my opinion, it's a little tough to introduce her for maybe this episode only, and have to bring the weight to it with only 2 flashbacks of her like losing a girl where we don't even really know her relationship with the girl or anything. It's a lot to put on the very slight shoulders of Jenna Coleman, and she mostly manages. It was
I'm in a good, not great place, but so she was having what we come to find out was a recurring dream where a girl, Astra was, we don't know her relation to this girl, but the girl's father was dealing in occult magic.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it one of the guys from the movie Logue? That is familiar to me. I feel like that happened.
Probably, sure. I'm not that versed in.
I've only seen it twice.
That's why I clarified from what we understand of the character. But he was involved in satanic magic. And so she called Joanna, and Joanna showed up, and there was like a portal to hell, and she told Astra to stay put. And I mean, Astra didn't stay put.
She didn't.
And she was told. So that's what happens. When you're a child who doesn't stay put, when you were told to stay put, you're going to get dragged to hell.
And you leave your arm behind in the waking world.
So we were like, I hope this is a hit, and I hope this does continue, because if it does, I venture we're going to get.
That's the thing is, like, I think it was a really good start to the character in this
and I want to know what is his...
Yeah.
I'm just so pulled into the world. What is his relationship with her family? That he's like worked with her ancestors.
Okay, so in that case, then she's definitely going to be in one more because she's playing her ancestor as well, Jenna Coleman.
In this season?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we got Matthew the Raven.
It's Patton Oswalt.
Okay. I like Patton Oswalt. I'll even go as far as to say I love him. You guys fucking love him.
He's funny, and he's like silly.
Yes.
And I love Ratatouille.
My issue is he is only capable of being Patton Oswalt to me.
That's the thing, is he's not a voice actor. So
well, he is. They use him in all kinds of things.
He's not. He is a famous person who does voice work. He is not a voice actor.
Yes.
He can't make his voice sound. It'd be like Yardley Smith just popping up in everything. You know?
There's a handful of times where she voices other characters
it's just
in Simpsons, and it's like anytime she ever does, it's like a little girl who's meant to invoke Lisa to Homer. But anytime he was speaking, I'm just seeing him in a recording booth with like headphones. Yeah. So I'm working on it. By the end of the episode, I was coming around to Matthew as a character. As a concept.
And he was like saying sort of poignant stuff. It was cute. He also is apparently freshly dead. That's what I was going to say. He was so modern.
Yeah. In a way that like Jessamy had like, she had this like regality, this fantasy regality to it. Yeah. Where I'm waiting for this dude to start talking about Twitter, like Matthew the Raven to be like, Gamergate, you know?
So he is like very modern. Like he just died and he was like, and then all of a sudden I'm a bird and I don't have thumbs. I have these. And he's like flapping his little wings. And I don't know. I just was sort of into it. And then
I did come around by the end.
Because then it turned into like a Thor Love and Thunder thing where then he got jealous of Jessamy because Morpheus was like, I had a raven and she died and blah, blah, blah.
And she was spectacular.
Yeah. And he basically is like, who was apparently perfect and like, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm really into it. I think it's really funny.
He feels both like brand new, but also like wisdomous.
Yeah,
like
he is wisdomous.
I liked that. They had a lot of great exchanges because I like the one where he was like, "Were you spying on me?" And he was like, "If I was spying on you, you wouldn't have
never known." Also, just in like a general IRL world, I love Patton Oswalt because he has a fake Twitter feud going with the band Eve 6. It's hilarious. Okay. It pops up every once in a while. And I also have loved both of his wives. So he's amazing.
Morpheus is trying to get his sand from Joe Constantine.
It's not going to make me say it different. It's truly horrible.
And she is she's Constantining it up.
Yeah.
She was working with this really randy priest.
She was so randy. They're calling her Rick the Vic, which I think is hysterical. That's so funny.
Because she even called, and I know it's like a Britishism, but she like called Morpheus proper fit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. He's just skinny. When you're skinny, you're just
fit.
Yeah, I was like, that's not.
I mean, he's hot.
Yeah,
he is also hot.
I mean, that's why I know it's a Britishism that means like attractive.
Yeah,
but it's like in American fit means like
like fitness. Yes. Yeah. No, it's not the same.
And so she was.
Also, I do think she is just a vicar. She's not a Catholic priest.
Okay,
I don't think.
I just saw the collar.
Yeah, some other denominations wear the collar. But I don't know. If she's that randy, she should quit being a Catholic priest.
And so she was called to exorcise the princess who had a demon in her, but twist, it wasn't the princess. It was the rather fit football player.
Yeah.
And he exploded. So I'm not entirely sure what Constantine's purpose is. She didn't save him.
She didn't save him, but she did send the demon back to hell.
Okay, so if a demon's in you, you're dying either way.
I guess.
It's just whether or not the demon can be contained. It's like zombie logic. He's already dead.
Sure.
Because it was Agalith, the demon. Very impressive.
Yeah.
I am.
Talk about proper fit.
When people are like, "Ooh, do you like fantasy?" This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. This is what I like from sci-fi, fantasy, horror, yada, yada, yada.
Well, it's not even that. For me, it's like not even the spectacle. It's like the stuff that makes me think, because it's like after that happens, then Dream and Joanna go like on their little adventure or whatever. They go to get the sand, and like the whole thing with her girlfriend, Rachel.
What
horrifying.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a wealth of things. We're pulling from mythologies, we're pulling from religion, we're pulling from folklore, and I don't know. I am, and it's particular, it's personal.
Yeah.
But I hate when you're watching a fantasy thing that's so unimaginative.
Yeah.
It's so like, well, there's vampires and hunters and that's it. And it's like, oh.
Or like,
can we get like
medieval is the only
medieval,
you know, like,
and they're in the woods.
It's one of the things I appreciate the most about Neil Gaiman is because he makes things that are mundane into fantasy.
He also understands that if there's not beauty, then life's not worth living.
100%.
There has to be beauty somewhere. And because it's what I call like the glamour factor. And this is giving me glamour factor. You know what I mean? It's giving even just the shot. And this wasn't even fantastical. But then walking through the church, I was like, oh, this is gorgeous.
I just like also I look around and like because I also read a thing. Basically, people are talking about the set design, and Neil Gaiman, keeps seeing people talking about.
That's another thing I love about him is he's
very active on Twitter.
It's not bitchy, but it's like he'll tell you. He'll let you know what he thinks.
He basically saw a bunch of people talking about all the green screening in The Dreaming, and he was like, "That's funny because we built the sets to look like they're CG, so like amazing." I don't know. I love it. I think it's so funny. And I think, you know, the big difference between him and like a lot of other people is it's like they're in this church and you're like, that church exists. Or if it didn't exist, they built a set that looked like a church, as opposed to just like being nowhere or like being on a soundstage. And I'm like, use
there were
the tools you
colors,
have.
there were textures, there was lighting, there was camera angles, and like it just sort of, it was rich. It's just, I'm just sort of pulled into this. It's
giving expensive.
And it's not even necessarily that it has to be. Something recently that gave expensive that was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's true.
But it's like, you have to give me something to sink my hooks into. Like, and I'm just there. So there was 280-year-old woman thing.
I think she's a big deal, but I don't know about her.
It was Hattie. So if she's important, we met her, and she's corporeal because Constantine, Joanna saw her.
Yeah,
let's just go with Joe.
She like told Joanna, she was like, the Sandman's back. Like all these people keep. I know. I guess
that's a place I'm confused. I was like, I'm really hung up on the whole 100 years without dreams.
Sure. I don't know that it's like 100% without dreams. It's just that he is not controlling it
because
things have run amok.
Yeah, but there was like Joanna was very blussed about like, well, Sandman, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so then if you're like brushing that off, then what is the in-world explanation for the weirdness of the past 100 years?
Well, not even that. For me, it goes even further than that, because I'm like, if you are drawing the line at the Sandman, what do you think
you're doing?
What is your job? What are you doing?
I'm fine with it. I'm not like, in spite of using the term hung up, I'm not hung up on it.
Yeah.
But it is one of those sort of the back of my mind. I'm a little bit like, surely there's something I'm misunderstanding.
I just would so much rather believe in the Sandman than demons that eviscerate footballers in the middle of a church.
You'd rather die than live in the world with bears in the sky. That was one of my favorites. You remember?
What is that?
It's the Midnight Sister.
Oh, yeah.
When Shadow, she's like trying to convince Shadow that he's a god or some such nonsense. And he's like, no. And she's like, wow, you'd rather. Oh, because he bet his head to Chernobog. Yeah. And she's, did you sell your head? And she says, you'd rather die than live in a world with bears in the sky. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, there's something about it that just like sparks.
I'd rather bears in the sky, 100% for sure.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, I'm not like hung up on it, but it is a question mark that's lingering. I don't fully grasp.
Too many people are like, I don't believe in that Sandman, and then I'm just like, but I know for a fact that
guess
he's real.
He's been gone for 100 years, and or maybe that like I don't know what to call it, plague or whatever. Maybe it wasn't like all encompassing.
They said all over the world. The voiceover said all over the
regardless,
world.
I'm ready to move on. Yeah. I don't fully grasp that part of the story. I'm also like, well, I'm at it now with, what is David Thewlis's name?
John.
I'm there now. I understand that he's he's a villain.
He's the villain, yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
I think the Corinthian is actually like small potatoes compared to John.
Oh, yeah. I kind of got that. But that scene with Ethel and John, my eyes kind of glazed. It wasn't even that my eyes glazed over, but it was sort of like we came back to it like 3 or 4 times. And each time they were having the same conversation, just slightly differently.
It felt very cyclical, where it was like,
I was like, is this one visit or is this multiple?
No, I think it was one visit.
It was odd. It was very...
But it just kept on being the same thing where it was like, well, I have the ruby. And he was like, well, I want the ruby. And she was like, well, you can't have the ruby because of last time. And he was like, I was protecting myself. And she was like, you killed a lot of people. And
but then she was like, I need the ruby. And then he was like, but I have the ruby. I didn't fully
Where's the ruby?
I didn't fully... Because he did something to it that only he can use it, I guess, is what he said.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then she gave him the, like, it's so clunky, too. It's like the amulet of protection. Yeah. It's very Once Upon a Time.
Very unobtainium.
Yeah, where you just state what the thing is. It's also a goat eye. I don't like...
It is like an eyeball.
So she gave that to him, and I was not done with Jolie Richardson.
Me neither.
I'm getting the vibe that this is that type of show.
Yeah.
Because your husband made a comment about Jenna Coleman, where I was like, do they call her Constantine this whole time? And he was like, I mean, the episode she's in. Yeah, and I was like, so we're just, it's
for as long as they use her.
It's not a procedural, but it's not. I mean, it's a little bit.
I get like this episode and then the next 2 episodes, it looks like he is
in hell.
No, he is trying to retrieve his individual eyes. So there's like 3 episodes in a row where he's like retrieving his items. And then I think we kind of take a left turn for the back half of the season. I'm
enjoying it. It's just, these are quite literal. We're not experts. These are our musings.
Yeah.
So I'm musing over this show.
I like it.
So she gave him the amulet, and then she died, and then he disintegrated a go-go boy who was like moonlighting as a guard.
That was a weird bit of casting.
Well, and he wasn't really a go-go boy. It was a go-go man.
Go-go man.
I don't know. It was giving trade.
It was giving trade for sure.
And he disintegrated people. Didn't feel too bad about it. He's hooked up with Corinthian.
Yeah.
Corinthian gave him his jacket, and they're going off. And then that does bring us to the Joe and Rachel stuff. So Joanna was sort of dating Rachel because that's what Constantine does.
Yeah.
Gets involved. And
then they are a womanizer.
Peopleizer.
A peopleizer. That's true. I forgot how all-encompassing.
Well, she said it in this.
Sexuality.
One of her previous's was Oliver. And so it's like, and again, she had chemistry with Morpheus. So what had happened? So she left to keep Rachel safe.
No, so they were like, she was crashing there is what she said. And Rachel
was in love with her.
Took it a little too far. And so then she just like left one day, but presumably after the Astra incident.
I figured the Astra incident was
like years and years.
Yeah.
Oh,
I figured that was origin story.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Regardless, she left and left a bunch of stuff at Rachel's place, including the sand.
But it was under the guise of protecting Rachel.
Yeah. And
as is not always, but sometimes the case, she condemned her in doing that because Rachel found it. And I guess you can use it. So it was effectively like drugs.
Yeah.
Like the real world equivalent. So she was just sort of in this, like, I think she'd said like 6 or 9 months or something.
Yeah.
So
she
for
was
6
just like
months,
in a haze.
Rachel was just in this haze of dreaming about Joe. And she kind of wasted away. She quite literally wasted away to nothing.
The point that Morpheus even says the only thing keeping her alive was the sand. And he is like, that's the thing too, is like, I think it's so funny when people in shows like this don't grasp the like morality or ethics of a god figure, because she was like, you're just going to leave her to die? And he was like, yeah, man, like, I'm just going to go. Like, he
does seem... I don't know that I would go as far as to say benevolent, but he seems just.
He's pragmatic. I would say fair. And so he's like, I didn't do it. And also I feel like people keep like imparting powers onto him. She just is like, fix it. And he's like, I just want him to be like,
give me my son. I can give you a dream about your son.
I just feel like I want him to like fucking break down and be like, Lord of Dreams, like, dreams only.
So, and then it ends with him and Matthew. He sort of
he gives her a beautiful image to die to. Essentially, he lets her die.
It was a mercy killing.
It's nice.
And he begrudgingly takes on Matthew's
Yeah.
assistant's accompaniment.
To go to hell.
And then they go to hell.
Yeah.
And that's where the episode ended. So we're going to watch the next one. And
Gwendolyn Christie in the next one. Bye.